So, we've gone through the entire manual now, pretty much. There's just one little piece at the end here which I haven't covered yet. Who feels good about what they've learned so far? Yes? Who have a sense that they can go home now and they can actually make themselves into a really successful hypnotherapy business? Even if you only focus on a few of the strategies in here, like let's put it this way, even if you fall short of your $100,000 plus income goal, your ability to reach a really healthy income is going to be far in excess of what the average hypnotherapy does, right? And of course, it's up to you guys how much you will work for it, how much you will adapt, and how flexible you'll be, and how much perseverance you'll have. But we've given you as much of the resources we can do, plus you'll have the follow-up calls, so we'll keep you on the loop, so to speak, as we go along. The last thing we want to talk about today, as we go into the whole creating the master plan stuff, is, actually, before we go into the whole business formulas, should we take a little tour through Johnny's map, just to remind ourselves of how far we've come over the last 5 days, and how far you'll be going over the next few days, or the next 6 months, 12 months, as you go home again, yes? So where does Johnny begin? The hut. What does the hut represent? The office, right? So there he is. We start off with a business guru because it's always good to start something with a game plan. It does not mean you'll follow a plan. I think it was like Napoleon or someone who said, you know, the planning is what you do until you actually start the battle, right? Or everything you intend to do until it actually begins. The point is, though, you'll have set your mind in a direction. You'll have a goal in mind. You'll have some processes in mind. And yes, your path may weave around, but once you know where you're heading, and once you have a sense of the paths and how they work, even if you get a detour along the ways, you'll always be able to find your way back and get the result that you want. You see how that works? You know, having a business guru in your life is very important. We've hopefully done a decent job of being that here as your foundational process. We'll be continuing that with the follow-up calls as you go into the actual practice, and you'll have the kind of questions that everyone has when they try and transform what they've learned into something practical. And of course, you'll probably start meeting actual people in your lives that will become good mentors, good coaches, and so on. And I strongly recommend you take advantage of that. I think Joe's got a few ideas around, which we'll share with you later on, around how to find a mentor and work with a mentor. So please, you know, just realize that this is a complete system, and there's lots of stuff you can do around it. You can do a lot of elaborating, a lot of flourishes to put in there, right? So then we go to the hut. And what is Johnny's hut? It's the office, right? Yeah. But it's not just the physical office space. It's not just the chairs and the desk and your laptop. It's not just the video camera or the audio to capture what's going on in the session. It also represents all the things that protect you as a hypnotherapist. Maybe you form a limited company or a corporation. Maybe you don't. You won't know that until you get legal advice. You must get legal advice in order to know how to run your business in your state, in your country, in your area, right? Each place is different. Some require licenses, some don't. Some require you to jump through certain hoops, some don't. Some require records to be kept for a certain length of time, some require a different length of time, right? Some require those records to be in a specific format in order to be accepted by, for example, the taxman. Some do not, right? So just educate yourself ahead of time what is expected of you, so that when you go into it, you can set up those systems in a way that is acceptable, right? So then you've got your office all built up, you've got a little bit of research to do to find out about that. What happens next? Where does he go? He goes to the marshes, right? What happens in the marshes, folks? Market research, right? Now you all know a lot about market research, and you also know that you just scraped the pinnacle of the iceberg. You can spend years learning how to do market research. It's not necessary, you can just begin. And as Joe was saying earlier, your client empathy map will constantly be updated, right? Should we have a little rule of thumb here? Do you want a little heuristic on this one? If you haven't updated your empathy map in 6 months, start again, go back to the marshes. I think that's a pretty fair rule of thumb there, right? So next, where we go? The village. And what's the village all about? It's the client profile, the empathy map, or any other tool that you wish to use. The point is, market research is useless until you actually do something with the data, right? And the empathy map, in my opinion, in my experience so far, and I think Joe will agree, is one of the simplest tools that will allow you to collate all that kind of information into something very powerful, right? Where do we go after the village? The farmers markets. So can we have a farmers market up? And they're the farmers markets, right? What's the first thing you need to do with farmers markets? Talk to the farmers, right? So you've identified a whole bunch of potential venues. You're going to ring them up. You're going to talk to the owners. You're going to do a little song and dance for them to allow you to do it for their clients, their customers, their friends, their whatever, right? And you have a process to do that now, right? Yes. Once you've got some farmers markets open and willing to talk to you, what happens next? The lecture demo is what's going to come, so get that ready. But really, now that we know a little bit more about Johnny's journey, he did a little bit backwards, right? So what he really wants to be doing first is building the road, right? There's the relationship road. What do you do with the relationship road? You follow it. So everyone again? Follow the relationship road. Follow the relationship road. I love this thing. Yeah, exactly. So before we do our lecture demo as well, you may as well put some systems in place because you're going to have some time. It's going to take a little while to build up to it. And what are the systems in terms of the journey here? The velvet ropes. Let's have some velvet ropes up here. Right? And the whole point of velvet ropes, they lead to a gift. That's the little carrot you dangle. But it basically allows you to automate the system of building a relationship. Right? It allows you to reach more people and suck up less of your time while still getting that whole value thing. Now you can do your lecture demo, your song and dance, people get excited, and you really have some great processes for that, right? So then what happens? He's been running that machine. So this machine on its own, right? Let's just have a little think about here. Do you need a crazy web presence for this yet? No. Do you need to have expensive advertisement in newspapers and magazines for this yet? No. Do you really need to have any of the things that are traditionally viewed as important for a business or marketing of a business? As far as you're concerned, or as far as the world is concerned, you might not even exist. Think about it, right? The world, as far as the rest of the world is concerned, you may not even exist because all that you're doing is you're focusing on building the right relationships so that your list is built, because your list is invisible to the world, isn't it? And you're contacting the people on your list because those are the only people you really care about. And you're feeding people into your list through lecture demos and so on. These are offline things that are not, it's not like you have a shop window in front of you saying, come on in, guys. Well, this is an example of the kind of boutique business. The boutique business is one which is closed doors. It only accepts certain kinds of clients, which is why they get to charge all those high prices. You can walk past one of these boutique businesses in the high street and never know it exists, because you have to be invited in to know it's there. And that's part of what makes it the exclusivity and the power of it and so on, right?
So let me make a point about this, because I think it might be helpful to you guys. A few of you have come up to me and said, I checked out your website, and you had some design advice, and thank you for that. But something that you'll see on my current website, and you know what I can do probably for the DVDs is just take a screenshot so that you can see as it is right now, or as it was being taped. My business followed this model from the beginning, and to Igor's point, a lot of my services are not on the web. They're not advertised because of the relationships and the clientele that I have on my list. Most of my niche, because of the previous employment and stuff that I had, I was a high-end consultant in a very small boutique consulting company that you would barely know exists as well. And because of those relationships that I built, I haven't even had the time to build a website. And you will find no better expert to build websites as a hypnotherapist than me. And I just could not be bothered. Essentially, I was making too much money with the clients that I currently have, too busy serving them to really spend the time to talk to lots of smoking clients and things like that. Really, you do not need a website for this. The only website that I use technically is Aweber. I mean, I am in there all the time, sending emails and out, and you can get on my list and see what those things look like. They look very similar to Igor's. I just send out tons of value, and then I ask for stuff in return. So I haven't needed to design a website. This week, however, I do have a virtual assistant, and they have completely taken down all the other websites that I have. I have a few products and stuff as well. One that was supposed to be here during this taping and didn't quite make it into production out of editing. And that's something you guys will discover is a long process and can happen. But all those websites and stuff that I have all been taken down and totally redone in the formats that we have shown you guys. I know that these things have worked, but like I said, I couldn't be bothered to do the proper stuff.
It's a high-quality problem, isn't it?
It's a high-quality problem, right?
Do I bother writing a website for people when I'm actually already full capacity? You may as well build your back-end system and all those things. Who would like to have that kind of problem, folks? Anyone? Right?
So, my theory was when I grew this business, and I've helped other people grow a lot of their own businesses, and I've had a few businesses of my own besides this. And some have failed, some have succeeded really well. But what I really got, the huge lesson there, was the relationship with your customers is the most important thing.
Right.
And everything else becomes ancillary. Cliff said he would run out of the house with his list. He would leave, the cat inside there to burn.
Bye-bye, Toasty.
Sorry, cat, right? But I knew when I started this business that I started out with just friends and family and asked them to introduce me to people. And then I did those phone call processes. I practiced and practiced and practiced. And I'd already been pretty good at it, already being a consultant. I knew how to do these things. A consultant and being a coach or a hypnotherapist isn't all that different. You're coming into someone's life, you're upending some things, and then you're giving them some systems and then helping them move on with their lives. And they'll come back and forth depending on the relationship. But I had such high-end clients at the beginning and was just so inundated and busy that it's been years, literally. I mean, I haven't updated my website. I think the latest blog post on there is maybe a year or two ago, where I said I was going to go down to be a assistant at Igor's Long Beach training.
Right.
Right. So it's I haven't updated the blog. I haven't done anything else. But my list, that's where all the activity has been.
That's the goal.
And I will spend hours and hours crafting emails and doing all sorts of stuff. So, to Igor's point, you could blow by my website, and that would actually look like every other website out there, or every other hypnotherapist website out there that's just terrible. But it's because I didn't have the time to throw up some stuff. I threw up a web presence so that people knew I existed, but other than that, I haven't really needed it.
Do you want to know one of my favorite websites was when I was going into executive coaching? This is brilliant, and I actually talked to the guy just to find out what he was doing, because I just love this to pieces. He had a website, which was whatever his URL was, I forget what it is now, and basically it turned up as this big black page, and on it was basically, so-and-so coaching.
That's it.
That's it.
Yep.
No buttons, nothing to press, nothing to click, no photo, no information, just so-and-so coaching. And I happen to know, I'd heard about him through friends who told me this is great. He had a powerful coaching practice and so on. I looked and I thought, what the hell? So luckily I got to call him. He got paid $10,000 on retainer. In other words, just to be allowed to call him to ask him to be his client, you had to pay him $10,000. He wouldn't even get out of bed for you unless you gave him $10,000. And the fees went up from there, right?
Yeah.
And his website, I just loved it. I wish I had the balls at the time to do the same,
Well.
which just his URL, no contact details, nothing. Why? Because his entire business was predicated on relationship.
Yeah.
He had relationship with the very high-end clients. They didn't care. They looked at his website and they laughed. They said, that's right. No one can get through this door. It's the door without a key.
Maybe I should try that strategy.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
It'll be a business card. My business cards will just have my name on them.
So this is not to suggest to you guys you don't have websites and all these other stuff. We showed you kind of some of the value within those things. The point of this is the things to focus on are those relationships, the relationship with the farmers in a moment's time, the relationship with the princes, right? Everything else is ancillary. The campaign, you're better off mastering Aweber and building a campaign and putting your efforts into writing a nice campaign sequence than having this glitzy, glamorous website. I know one poor lady who, I was on a hypnosis training, someone else's training, and she was paying someone $10,000 to build this really glitzy, glamorous website. And I feel sorry for her because she put her life savings into this thing, and it did nothing for her. 6 months later, she was basically bankrupt. She had to go back to her old job, her dreams crushed, because all went into a tool, which is a minor tool. It's an important tool. Having a nice website with a buy now button and so on, Perfect. It does some selling for you, right?
Yep.
Having a squeeze page, fantastic. It does some selling for you. It's great for when you have adverts. But do you even need a squeeze page until you're ready to advertise?
Nope.
No, because everyone you'll be seeing will be seeing physically. You'll be getting them on your list, right? So I guess the reason we're mentioning this right now is because we're getting into the strategic portion of the training, right? You've got the tools now. What I want you to start thinking about as we continue with this whole map, you'll notice that Johnny here made some mistakes, right? He wasn't being strategic. He did a lecture demo before he built the road, and so he lost some clients. And if you guys can start thinking strategically, I'll come to you in a second, you will start to realize there are some things you invest your efforts into up front because they're really worthwhile, and there are some things you can save for later because they're not the things that are going to really make you money. What's going to make you money right away? It's a relationship, isn't it? So you focus on that. Now, if the area that you're in, the environment that you're in, people want to check you out, need to check you out online before they'll trust you, then of course it makes sense to put your website up straight away, right? If it takes you 10 seconds to put a website up, then of course just whack it up there, have something there just for the sake of having something there, right? But do not spend a lot of time, money, and effort on doing that when it's doing nothing for you. Strategically speaking, the website works later when you have your advertising in place, at least the squeeze page and stuff like that, right? The actual sales page may well work if you want to sell via your email campaign and send them to the sales page to do the main selling. Great. But then you can just as easily put a phone number on there and get them to call you for your phone process, right? So you need to start, and we'll walk you through some questions on this. You'll need to start thinking strategically about where do I invest my time and efforts first. Doesn't mean you don't do all these things. It means it's a question of prioritizing the resources you have available to you. Does that kind of make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And, to that point, you can bring a website in or, anything else in, all these extra services and stuff you can do at any point in your business. And for your business, it might be the right time to bring a website in first.
Right.
In my business, it happened to be that, because of my knowledge and experience of being in that area and building websites and doing all that stuff for other people, I knew that it wasn't a huge thing for me to do as a coach. And I wanted to actually differentiate myself in the market. And that was one way to do it, was I didn't even need a website. I was actually calling on the high-end clients that people didn't even have access to in my area. So why build a website if I'm just using the phone? Was my theory. That was my thinking behind it.
So you get the idea here. What we're talking about is not so much about here's what we do. It's a question of strategy. How are you getting at your audience? How are you building the relationship? We have a ton of websites because our strategy is email campaign, website, and that's where the sale comes, right? So we need to have a lot of websites for that. Mm-hmm. Joe's strategy is the way people come in through the relationship is through personal contact. The way they come into personal relationship with us is through a website. So we do websites first, and then the rest later. He does relationship first, and then the rest later. I do not know what will work for you. That's a strategic choice you must make. And please don't think that you have to dive into follow the same pattern that everyone else does. You need to do your market research, find out your area, and so on. You kind of making sense of what we're talking about here, guys, right? It requires thought. It requires research. It requires a client profile to understand what your clients need from you. So we've got two very different models in terms of the external, but the back end, the actual mechanics, the machine that's running both of those things is identical. Mm-hmm. The machine is identical. It's just the face looks different because we have a different strategy in terms of where we're going on what we're trying to achieve, right? And yours will look very different from each other also for the same reason. Yeah. Should we get back to Johnny's magic road? Yes. Oh, so there were some questions here as well, weren't there?
Oh, questions,
can I have a microphone up here, please? And then there's one over there. Sorry, I didn't.
Okay, it was logistics as much as anything else. Given that when you're writing your sales letter or whatever, you have the person that you've profiled in mind, mm-hmm. and if you can't write the letter, it lets you know you haven't done a good profile.
Exactly.
My brain says when you're actually doing the profile, at the same time, do the letter and design the gift that you'll be doing, and maybe even their product, because if you can't do it, you haven't.
If it works for you that way, then do it. If someone else wants a more systematic approach, then do that. Yep. You got to work with what your mind likes, right? Mm-hmm. If your mind is more, multitasking sort of thing, great.
Well, it's not, the idea was it fed back on the link, but yeah, okay.
It doesn't matter.
All
The
right.
point is, you've got to make a personal choice as to what works for you. We've given you the tools, we've given you the principles on which to choose what strategic weight to give to it. How you operate, it's got to be something what you are talking about could work great, like gangbusters, so to speak,
Yeah, okay,
right?
I hear you.
And someone else, it may not work for them at all. So I can't give you specific advice like that. We'll go through a little coaching process later today where you get to make your choices in terms of what works for you. And some of those things will be wrong, by the way, so you'll have to adapt. Like my productivity system, probably the first 2 or 3 weeks of it were just terrible. And I was losing stuff and I'm ready to bin it. But then that's when I worked out what I needed to do, how to simplify it to what I needed.
Okay, so my question is dealing with the farmers markets. When you're going there to do the song and dance, I was thinking about this. My mind's starting to put it together. That number one, like you're going to a yoga studio, you do your song and dance, and then you go to a formal business per se. So you would change it from like telling them literally just change the language. So like if you wanted to do a mind relaxation as the actual program itself. To your clientele, you would just present it with their language,
100%.
but it's really the same song and dance. Yep.
Exactly, and also realize that kind of real diverse dichotomy is less likely to happen if you have your niche within a niche.
Okay.
Right, because if you have to create a completely different vocabulary and a completely different lecture for 2 different styles, what you're basically saying is you have 2 slightly different audiences.
Okay.
They may both want to stop smoking, and it may still be worthwhile doing. But now you're running 2 sub-niches, and you may find it easier to put all your investment to one first.
Okay.
So that becomes, so you really get to own that niche and become known in that niche. It's that one of those counterintuitive things, and I'm sure you'll agree on this one, which is the fewer clients you want to serve, the more you'll end up serving.
Okay. I just got, I think I'm fighting that. It's like, no, I want...
Everyone does. Everyone does. I fully expect those of you who are totally sold on the idea right now will still go home and still go, yeah, but maybe I should do this anyway, right? It's there. I warn you, it's there. And I guarantee you, on our very first call, the coaching call we promised you guys, we'll remind you of this. You'll go, yeah, I've tried this and that. And goes, oh, so you're doing 3 niches. No, but it's really the same because, no, it's 3 niches, right? It's going to happen, folks. I know it. And that's one of the reasons we've got this follow-up support and so on. The sooner you can, that feeling you have right now, what makes you think like, oh, but I'll miss out.
Sure.
That's the one you have to fight. Okay. I have to fight it. Joe has to fight it. It's
still
easier.
Fight it.
Yeah, it's easier once. It's easier once you're established because then you can go, you know what? I can afford to do this now, right?
Yeah, you can actually afford to waste time.
Yeah, it's true. Because if I mess up, I'm still getting an income, right? Yeah. So it's less emotional because of that. But when you're starting off, that emotional choice, it's a risk.
Got you. So when you say go to the farmers, you should be looking at going to the
specific
same market.
Farmers.
Okay,
exactly.
Got you.
Yeah.
Are you looking at greengrocers? Are you looking at pig farmers? Are you looking at sheep farmers? Are you looking at oatmeal makers? They'll all have different clientele coming to them.
Sure.
So you don't just want to go to the market, go to a specific aisle, and then go to a specific section of that aisle.
And then talk to the stall owner.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Does that help?
Yeah, perfectly. Thank you.
Is this useful to you guys? Yes. I guarantee everyone here will face the same dilemma at some point in their startup phase.
Use the fear.
Yeah.
I let it inform me. If I fear like I'm going to miss enough clients or a lot of clients or something like that, if I feel like, oh, there's only going to be like 2 people in the world that likes this, I know I've hit on the right thing. It feels scary, but you just kind of have to remind yourself, no, that's actually good.
Okay. And you can always change niche. If the niche you've chosen to settle in isn't working out after a few weeks, you can always say, you know what, that was a nice test. Well, let's test another niche, because you'll have in your market research several client profiles and several potential niches. So you just go, you know what, switch tracks.
Yep, you're not stuck in one.
Is the name of your business important? Like, what would you call it, or
the answer is yes and no. It is important, but it's not important enough to waste time on it.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you can get a killer name that really, encapsulates what you do, that's the ideal, right? And don't let that stop you start the cycle of actually bringing people into your business. Because remember, they're not buying your business name. With this version here, they're not buying your business name, they're buying you, right?
Yeah.
If you're doing more like an online strategy, which is kind of our approach, then the name becomes much more important because it's descriptive, it gives a certain feel and flavor and so on. It's the handshake when they first meet us, right? Mm-hmm. If we're switching the strategy around, which is what we're recommending to you guys, because otherwise we'd have to spend all this time talking about online stuff, which would blow most people's fuses, then the name becomes less important. It's still important, but not important enough to pause everything else that you're doing. And definitely not important enough to pay some consultant, $100,000 to come up with some glitchy thing that you'll probably never use anyways, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So get started and let the name evolve from your USP, from your way you serve your clients. I'll give you a quick example of this, if I may. You're all familiar with most of you are familiar with the idea of H+ in terms of my style of hypnosis, yes? Yes. Do you have to know where that came from? It was a pure accident. I was teaching the conversation hypnotherapy program, actually what the original DVD said. And as I was there, I was trying to explain to people what I do, this idea of how I put myself in a special kind of trance where I have certain feelings, and it's actually the client empathy map with a real person. And that intensity just kind of leaks out of me, and I can't help but do hypnosis. I'm trying to explain this, and I'm saying, like, it's kind of like, your desire to hypnotize someone, plus, something more, do something really positive. And some little wag in the audience went, oh, you mean like H+? They gave us the whole concept, and that'll happen to you too. Make sense? Can we have the microphone over here, please?
I have a little comment, maybe an advice, and my own idea.
Sure.
Because in marketing terms, you often sit and you say, I'm going to approach the market. So what I want to do, I want to find a cool name that everybody goes with. And you're like sitting there and you go, do people want that? But what's most important is that if you go inside yourself and find something that you feel absolutely great about and cool about, then people will actually feel that about your business every time you talk about it.
Right,
so,
especially because this is such a personal thing, right?
Yeah, it's personal.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. Everyone clear? Yeah. Shall we move on to the next segment? Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Just leave them there for now. We'll pick it up later. So, Johnny's right now running around doing great lecture demos. He's running up and down the relationship road. He's following the relationship road. And he's got some nice, simple systems in place, some accounting systems, his email campaigns, the autoresponder to take care of it all for him in times and so on. So now he's actually got a pretty decent business going, right? He may well be invisible to the world, as we talked about before, but he doesn't care because he's not trying to serve the world. He's serving the clientele that's going to those farmers markets, and that's giving him enough income to be running a decent business, right? So then, as he grows in experience and his lecture demos get polished and so on, inevitably, and let me say this again, inevitably, he will find some princes, right? Somewhere? One day? There they are. It takes a little time sometimes, He will find them. You will not know where you will find them. There will be someone you do a lecture demo to and they love you. It'll be someone you actually see as a client and they think you're amazing. It'll be someone you meet at a party and is just really impressed by you, right? I'm not sure if I shared this story with you guys already. I may have touched on it in private. When I was doing executive coaching, I had no concept of how to market myself. I was just embarrassingly stupid, right? I left a law firm, which is one of the best law firms in the country, and my expectation was, if you're the best, people will just come knocking on your door. That's not how things work. Law firms are based on relationships. I didn't know that because I wasn't high enough on the food chain to get taught that, right? So here I am having nothing, no clients, no hope, no life. Great coach. Exactly. Nothing's changed since then, by the way. But I was running one of the promises I made myself. One of the reasons I left the law firm is I've been studying martial arts for most of my life, and I had to give it up as a lawyer because there was really no time. So I opened up a small martial arts school just because I promised myself that's one of the first things I do when I leave. Someday, and I'm running this for about 6 months, and a student walks in out of nowhere. Honestly, to this day, I still don't know how he found us, right? Because we were like all those boutique businesses. I was just friends of a friends being invited in and so on. So who knows how he found us, right? He was so impressed with his first lesson, He is actually one of the he was actually one of the head coaches at one of these team development companies that do team building events. And he brought me in because at first he just showed me the ropes and we did a little bit of team development stuff, low-level stuff. But the real reason was because that company had such a golden client list. And all they were doing is team development, which is a mid-range thing. And all these executives were just basically ripe for the plucking, and they had nothing to offer them. That's where I came in, right? So we did a deal where basically they did all the marketing and I did all the work. It was a great thing. That was a prince for me, folks. Where did he walk into? The most random thing. Do you think I designed my business plan to say, yes, and then I will open a martial arts school because that's the perfect place to find a prince that will let me into Fortune 500 companies and talk to the CEOs and the chairman of the board and all those sort of people? Is that what I did? No. So that's why you start this way, because as your message spreads, as you do stuff in the real world, you have no idea where you will find those princes, but they will come. That's why you must polish your lecture demo, because unless you know how to talk about what you do and be able to do a demo on the drop of your hat and say, look, let me just show you something real quick. It could be something as simple as like the motor response. Have you done the pendulum thing? The pendulum, it's just a fun thing. It's in the Power of Self-Hypnosis if you're interested, or you can just look online. There's lots of places I'll show you a simple version of that. I did that. Oh, here we go. Here's a pendulum. It's a little slightly heavier. This is the classic pocket watch. This is a little bit heavy. You want, I am a hypno man. Look at me now. That's nice, an American Eagle. So the idea is basically, it's a pendulum. It's actually a idiomotor response. It's actually a long lever that will increase your response. So if I think to my unconscious mind, please give me a signal for yes. Signal for yes. Thank you very much. See how it's moving? And then you do the same for no, and then maybe, and so on. And you start asking yourself questions, right? I showed this to an executive once, just casually during our free consultation, whether or not he wanted to be a client. He loved it. He was thinking about it 6 months later. It was his favorite party trick. Would that be a gift you can give to someone? Right? It's a very simple thing to do. Thank you very much for that. But you see where we're going with this? If you start polishing these things, if you start building magic, that's a little magic moment right there. If you build magic moments, if you do your lecture demos and get to know your audience, then when you do meet the princess, they don't pass you by, right? They do not just walk by and go, oh, well. They'll look like, oh, what's this? Tell me more. And you tell them all and they go, oh, I like this. Tell me even more. Then you have the conversation that Joe taught you to have, right? And then they'll go, you know what? I have just the people for you. I love this. At last, I know what to do with them. Do you see where the princes come from, folks? That's why we start with the lecture demos. They're the easiest, simplest way of getting clients. It is not, let me repeat this, it is not the most lucrative place to get clients, but it's the quickest and simplest place to get clients. And to get the ball rolling, to basically be knocking on the door of life and say, give me an opportunity. Not today? All right, I'll be back tomorrow. Eventually, those princes will turn up. You just have to be able to recognize them and cultivate the relationship just like Joe taught you to, right? And he, by the way, is a real expert at this. I know because I've been in that sort of level of things. And what Joe does with his clients far exceeds what I used to do with mine. And I was pretty successful with a much reduced version of that.
Thank you.
But it's true. It's actually true. I know the clientele, and it works. And princes really work pretty much like CEOs and so on. They don't like to be sold to, but they love the value. They love people saying, like, what do you want? Like, oh, that's a novel question for me.
Yeah. And in just a few minutes, I'll show you how to find, because I learned a lot of my skills from many different mentors over the years. And I'll show you guys how to find mentors. You know, I was thinking about it last night. I unconsciously used the process to be here. Igor is one of my greatest mentors in my life.
Thank you.
If you can ever have him mentor you in any way, do it. Highly recommend it. But I am here because I used the process that I'll teach you guys in a few minutes. And then
I'm a little afraid now. Suddenly I'll be doing like 80 different seminars. Like, oh my God.
That was the first step that built a relationship that we now have. So, you know,
watch the space.
Yeah, right?
What? How?
So, yeah, ooh. Yeah.
And honestly, guys, I have met a lot of people in my life, and what Joe is sharing with you guys, especially about building those referral partners, those princess relationships, it is pure gold. It seems like a little throwaway, like, oh, that makes sense. but it's not. It's pure gold. Unless you've worked that level, you have no idea just how good that is. So you understand why we start with the lecture demos to get yourself to refine yourself to the point that you don't miss the opportunity with the princes, right? But really what we're interested in is the princes primarily, because that's where the money's at. You saw the game. You saw how quickly cash starts escalating. Clients start pouring in when you make the right relationships and you cultivate those, correct? You saw yesterday how all you need to do is basically go backwards and forwards from your home to the one prince and maybe two princes, and you have more clients than you can shake a stick at. And I have a big stick, and I can shake hard. It means a lot of clients. Translation of the metaphor. So then we build, now we already know we need to build the infrastructure straight away. Luckily, we already built most of it and tested it and got rid of the bugs with the lecture demos where the audience is smaller and the mistakes less costly. So by the time we get to the actual princes, that system has been polished. It's smooth. And they'll look at it and go, hey, this is a smooth operator. I like this. I can feed my people into this system and know that they'll be looked after. They will not be coming back to me and saying, that was bad advice you gave me there. Do you understand the need that the princes have, that the referral partners have in terms of what you're doing for them? Yes? And you can see how there's a completely different layer in this system now that we didn't really elucidate beforehand. There's a whole strategy running in the background to prepare you to be able to lift yourself up, bootstrap yourself up to the next level. Do you see that? So there the princes are, and you're running around. Once again, this on its own, you could make a six-figure income with just that. You will work the system, and you'll have to work pretty hard. But, I mean, that's pretty much most of what you do, Joe, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is basically all I do. I do have some websites, and I'm actually testing out advertising. But, I mean, I've been doing this for years, and I'm just getting to the King's Highway, right?
Right.
It's just,
because it's not worth rushing to that point.
Yeah.
Because the referral partners, those are relationships worth cultivating, and so much stuff is coming from it. Why not serve those clients before you rush into the expensive advertising and the complex tracking systems on? It's worth doing. But why rush into it?
I prefer to make my mistakes, and when they're not that costly, they're very
Right.
fast to make, and they're small, so that no one knows. You know, one of my first seminars was like 4 people, and 3 of them were like my friends. So, you know, and I had to fight to get that many people there. It was like, come on, guys, come on, I'll teach you some really cool stuff. And they loved it. They absolutely loved it. But I made some horrible mistakes. I told Igor, I had a larger conference, or a seminar that I did. It was about 50 or so people, which is almost about the size of this current room. And he actually taught me a nice reframe to this. But I had been reading like tons and tons of business books and tons of stuff about getting people motivated to take some action. And I basically wrote this sort of letter to a friend. And I was, I don't know, I must have been on drugs or something. I was, I don't know, maybe I was angry at the time or something, but I write this thing, and it was basically like an impassioned plea to please take the advice that I'm giving you to heart and actually take action on it. That's really the intent of the letter. But when you read, especially in text, right, there's no emotion in there, and whatever people are feeling is what the emotion that'll actually come up for them. So I put this it's like a long, like 1-page letter. I put this on everybody's chair as they're coming in, and I'm sitting up at the little podium stuff that I have because I couldn't move it either, and I'm reading this and I'm going, oh my God, this is so horrible. And
he didn't put it away for a week, right? This is
yeah,
the thing you put away for a week and then reread.
And then rewrite it. Oh my God, it was horrible. The entire room was. You could feel the level of energy just went way down, and everyone just got way angry, and I was like, oh God.
Because it just sounded like an angry letter. Someone like, you must do this or else life sucks.
So now instead of 50 people that I had to work pretty hard to get 50 people there. I had 50 people that really loved the idea of what I was doing, and they were super happy and excited to get there, to now they hate me. And I'm writing 50 people's crosshairs, and it like completely killed the room. But it took me a couple hours actually to recover from that. It was like I think it was like a 6-hour kind of seminar that I did, and it was an absolute disaster. But I actually am okay with that because, you know, it was a disaster that I could deal with in the time, and I fortunately recovered a bit. You know, had I had more mentoring from Igor, I probably could have taken care of it in 2 seconds. But that's, again, the power of a mentor. And it just reminded me again that, you know, just make mistakes when they're small. I could have done the right thing and had someone else read it and go, no, this is horrible. Or, you know, had tested it out in a small group or whatever. But I just prefer to make mistakes when nobody knows about them, where only a few people know about them.
And this is again why we've got this structure we're going on through here. Remember how hard it is to get a few people in the lecture demos? It's very doable, and you'll get a decent income out of it. But the point is, if you mess up a couple of lecture demos, so what?
Doesn't matter.
That's maybe a room full of 10 people. I mean, having 10 people to start off with a lecture demo, I'll come to you in a second if I may. Having about 10 people in a lecture demo to start off with, that's a pretty good going. That's a pretty good rate, right?
That's actually not bad.
If 2 of them sign up to your email list, that's 2 people you never had before. And slowly but surely that builds up as long as you feed the baby, you care for the baby, you love the baby, you rock the baby, you kiss the baby, right? And then you make your mistakes, and you'll lose some people. But you'll lose, you know, if you list as 10 people, and you lose 50% of your list, you've lost 5 people, which you can live with.
Yeah.
If your list is 100,000 people and you lose 50% of your list, that's 50,000 people gone.
That hurts.
Right? So make your mistakes early. You should be happy. You should be thankful when you're messing up in these early stages.
Yeah.
Because, once again, this is very elegantly designed to teach you to make all the mistakes when it doesn't count. Right? So when you actually get into the real game, well, you sorted things out already. And sure, you'll still make mistakes, but as Joe was saying, they'll be much more recoverable because your instincts will be better attuned, you'll be more sophisticated about what you're doing, and so on.
And the good thing about the ending of that story for me was that I had built up such a relationship with these people that they had such empathy for me that I had made this major blunder that all of them are still on my list. All of them, you know, many of them are now friends and stuff. So you can recover from these mistakes easily.
Yes.
And the important part there for me, the lesson there is that the relationship was what counted. They, you know, when people have a relationship with you, they don't want to see you up there struggling and you know, really making mistakes. They're on your side. So, you know, yeah, they were upset with me for a little while, but what friendship, you know, relationship doesn't have its rough patches, right? So I think it was just a valuable learning experience for me. And hopefully you guys can benefit from that without having to make, you know, a major mistake of writing an angry letter to your seminar participants, right? Don't do that.
Do you pass the mic from back to the back table?
You know, when you make a mistake in your campaign, because it's an autoresponder, do you alter campaigns? Do you edit them
All the time.
for feedback?
All
Constantly.
the time. Yeah.
And the beauty is, because campaigns are basically designed to build relationships, you'll usually know when you've messed up because people will write your emails, right?
People have no idea you're using an autoresponder. This is coming from you, right?
It is. And it actually is coming from you because A, you've written the email with a genuine person in mind, and B, they get to reply back to you, and hopefully, I would strongly recommend you do this, you read their replies because that is the best market research you can possibly find.
Totally. Thank you for that, because people will respond positively or negatively on their own, but you can also ask them to. Like, you know, you can even say, after I've done a test where essentially the campaign was over, and I'll send a quick email to those people that were on the list and say, how was that for you, basically? And I've gotten some angry emails, and as your list grows, you'll get some
the larger list goes,
on there.
The larger your list gets, the more the fringes will be, you know, you'll have people who love you a little bit too much, and you have people who hate you for really no apparent reason. Yeah. And they still stay on the list. That's the weird part, right? They'll stay there for week after week after week hating you and sending you hate mail.
Yeah.
But no reason. They don't leave. It's a very strange thing.
Read them, but don't take them too seriously at that point.
The weird part is, on occasion, the ones that really hate you will still buy something. I bought it, but I still hate you, and for these reasons here, it's like, it's just a function of a large list.
It's so weird, right? It's so weird.
Yeah. It's just people. The world's full of really interesting people. Let's put it that way, right? Does that kind of help you?
Absolutely.
Okay. Can we have the microphone over here with Jules?
I just wanted to share, if I could, that the best lesson I ever learned that completely changed my business model was from what I thought at the time was a terrible failure. I had lined up for weeks to get the first prints. It was a very, very wealthy client, and we're meeting to present a proposal with the accounting firm, and the law firm there was quite confrontational because they already believed that they were doing what was best for the client.
Yeah.
I present my technical analysis, and I was so involved in trying to solve the problem for the client that my entire sales training about what to do and how to lead people through the decision had fallen apart. And I realized I'd gotten to the end of my presentation, and I had a complete blank. I had no idea what to say. The fear was just rushing through me. I had no idea what to do. And out of the blue, I just looked up at the client and said, I'm such a terrible salesman. I have no idea what to do now.
Oh, yes, perfect.
But by doing so,
Yes.
he started laughing with a large belly laugh, and he said, Jules, you've just completely destroyed my other advisors, and now I have no choice but to deal with you. I'd say that was a good thing.
Yes. Yes.
So
Once again, folks, do you see the power of sincerity and being a real, genuine human being? And doesn't that build more of a relationship to be just honest, say, look, I messed up a little bit, but you get what I'm trying to do here. People go, yeah, I can go with you on that. That's what we're trying to get to you guys. That's why we start here before you do advertising. Because otherwise advertising becomes corporate speak, and that does nothing.
That's why that relationship road is paved with gold. Literally. The relationship will save you over any mistake you ever make.
So we good with this? All right, just want to hand we have a mic over here in the front.
Just a very quick comment. Back up, back up, back up.
Oh, yes, okay.
I mean,
for digital data and
Yes.
for paper data, I guess, too, but back up your stuff.
I recommend that you do a double backup. You have a physical hard drive. You can get these really cheap 2 terabyte things where you put everything physically on that. So it's on your computer. It's on a separate hard drive that's not on the internet in case no one messes around with that. And on a cloud server in case your house burns down and you don't have a chance, cat list. Oh, too late. The cloud server. The cloud server, in other words, the offline somewhere else in Mumbai probably, will still have your data. So having different places where it's stored is a very good thing.
I'll give you guys the resource that I use for the online one.
Yeah.
This will actually build the power of your list as well.
Crashplan.com.
So you could pay for their online service as well, but what this allows you to do is actually back up to a friend's computer, and it will completely encrypt your data. They won't be able to get to it without a password, things like that. But you can actually back up your data between computers. So if you have your own servers or your own computer stuff, it'll back up, it'll do incremental backups, all sorts of fun stuff. Just go to their website, they'll explain the whole process to you. But what I've done, because this is just another small niche that I have access to, because I have access to lots of corporate executives and people that need their data backed up. I know how to set up servers in like 5 minutes. And so I set up my own CrashPlan server, and a lot of my clients back up with me, and I charge them a monthly fee. So, I mean, like, you can build in all sorts of ancillary services and stuff, but now I'm their trusted cloud source backup provider.
Which builds the relationship further, doesn't it?
Right? So I'm literally entrusted with their trade secrets. I can't get to them. I have no interest in them, but you can really build a relationship with that.
Did you ever follow up with that?
Just personal experience, it is absolutely no fun trying to recover your precious list.
No, we've been there, by the way. We've paid someone $5,000 to try and recover a hard drive that died, and they couldn't do it anyway. So not only did we lose the data, but we paid $5,000 on top of that as well. So it happens, guys.
Back up.
It happens. Exactly.
Back up, do it.
So let's just pass it to Amir. He was actually waiting first, unless it's a very quick point.
Very quick.
All right.
Just to clarify, in all the game we've talked about doing different lecture demos. Presumably, if we're in a niche, we do the same one.
Same
each
lecture
time.
demo each time.
Yep.
The only difference, you have different lecture demos coming through here, is because different people are giving different ideas.
Yeah.
Now, you can tweak your lecture demo and play around with it, but you're in one niche, you do the same demo. Now, if you go back to the same audience for a different product, well, then you can change a new lecture demo.
Yeah.
It makes your life easier, though, because you get to polish and refine something, right? You're welcome.
You'll get really
Pass
good
it this way.
You'll have like a stable of lecture demos that you can just pop out, no problem. Yeah, but one at a
Exactly.
time, perfect that one.
Exactly.
Again, the same sort of niching approach, just perfect that
Exactly.
one. To start.
You guys know, I teach basically a brand new seminar, well, actually up to 4 or 5 brand new seminars each year. That makes life very hard for me because I have to redesign it from scratch and they're long programs. I do not recommend you go there, not at least not until you have a lot more experience, because that is not an easy step to do. So this is one of those advanced strategies, right? So if I was starting from scratch again, I would create one killer presentation and I would run it and run it and run it until the rail tracks had worn out and the little wheels on the train had worn out, and then I could probably get a donkey to push it some more, and when the doors fell off and the donkey died and couldn't replace it anymore, I might push it myself some more, and then I might consider changing and upgrading it to something else, because it works.
Same one, but just a short, medium, long version.
Yeah, same one. You can scale it up and down depending on where you're at.
So for the group classes, is that niched down as well?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Remember, you guys have the success group, right?
Right.
And specifically, if I would give them the proper title, is the successful hypnotherapists and coaches group. That's a pretty tight niche, isn't it?
Right.
Right. So then you'd have maybe stay-at-home mums parenting group, right? Maybe even from a certain age range. Or you'd have, senior citizens with chutzpah group, right? So the idea is...
That's a good one.
You like that one, do you? So the idea is, yes, whatever niche you're attracting for the hypnotherapy, you will just extend into these things. I mean, let's put it this way. Let's say we're doing a weight loss for hypnotherapists who don't want to know how the rest of the world know they've done a weight loss session. It's a crazy niche, but I know we could play with that one, right? With chutzpah. And then you do your weight loss session, you feel fantastic, and you're rock and rolling in life, and so on. You're going, this is great. But we've come to the end of this, the process, and you feel fantastic. Now, would you like to meet other people who've just been through the same process, and then continue this journey of self-improvement into just all kinds of wonderful places? Would you like to do that?
Yeah.
Great. Well, then just come into my, my success group, or my, group coaching class where the mind, the power of the mind gets explored. And everything you did here is going to be a perfect foundation to just launch you into the stratosphere, right? Cool. Instant pitch, here we are. Come into my group class or don't. Make sense?
Yep.
People are being added
Pass it there?
In that case, people are being added to that group.
Well, I'm putting them into an intake. I say, look, the next group starts in 3 weeks' time, and we'll put you into that, right?
Yeah.
If I have an advanced group, as I mentioned before, once they're more advanced, they've gone through the process, they understand the dynamic and the sharing process and all the rest of it, I'll be more lenient about letting new people join, partly because fewer people will go through advanced groups, and partly because they understand the process more and they're in the game. And when someone new comes in the door, they've been prepared to be welcoming and accepting, and they know that the new people through the door have gone through the same experience they have, so they're part of a larger group, so to speak. I would not recommend it for the first group. It can be done, but there are group dynamic issues that will arise as a result of that, which we really don't have time to discuss here, which you will avoid by separating the two. Does that help? Everyone cool? Mm-hmm. Look how much stuff. Oh, back here very quickly.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch all that, and you might have even touched on it. But so you got your group going, and what happens along the way? Somebody has to miss 1 week.
That's fine. It's still part of the group.
And they're still part of the group, so you let them back in, no problem.
Yeah, because remember, the group is not like on step 1, step 2, step 3. You miss a step, you can't continue.
Right.
It's a open-ended process. What's important about the group is the dynamic within the group.
Right. The
so
dynamics
if
in the
Fred's
group,
missing,
they're going to allow them back in.
Exactly. If Fred's missing, when we go, oh, we missed you, Fred, or he'll come back next week.
Yeah.
Now, if Fred's been missing for it's a 10-week program, he's missing for 4 weeks, I'd probably contact Fred. Look, Fred, you seem to have missed a lot of this stuff. Why don't you sign up? Why don't we just, you can either have a refund for the sessions you missed, or we can sign you up for the next group, which is going to start in 2 weeks' time, so you can start from scratch again because you missed too much. The group's really progressed onwards, and we need to pull you into a new filter there, right?
Yep.
Just you have to protect the group dynamic, basically.
Sure.
Does that help?
Yeah.
An experiment, folks. You'll make mistakes, and it's not a big deal. You'll just fix them, and you'll know better next time.
You could almost set up a little mini your Weber thing that have a notification going.
Yeah, you can have a segmented list that notifies, and remember, next lesson's coming up. So make sure you'll be there. We've got some really cool stuff ready for you. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that.
All cool? Do you see how much stuff is packed into really? And we haven't even completed the map. And you know the funniest part, as far as I'm concerned, is I laugh myself asleep at nights thinking about this. Well, maybe I don't laugh, I just pass out. But if I had enough energy to stay awake after the session, I would be laughing like a crazy man. We haven't even gotten to the point where everyone else spends all their time and money, which is advertising. Isn't that what most people do?
Yeah.
We haven't even touched on it yet.
And this is why I designed my business this way, and why we're
here.
You know, why
Because
we're here, right?
If I believe me, I have been wanting to do this seminar for years now, and until I met Joe, everyone I talked to who had either successful practice or a semi-successful practice was using processes I thought, nope, that does not work for someone who's a novice. It is not what I want. It is not what we're looking for. I tried to corral Cliff for 2 years to create the process that we want, but he's a very busy man, as you can imagine, so he didn't have the time to do it. So then it was a casual conversation that Joe and I had over lunch one day. And
maybe casual, maybe not.
Yeah, and as soon as
I'm just kidding.
Is he messing with my mind? But literally, as he started talking about, I instantly recognized this is exactly what I've been looking for. It hits all the right points in terms of what my practice was like. All the mistakes I made have been out-framed, have been sort of cut out, and it's been polished. It's been refined way beyond what I had. Hence, Joe and I'm very happy for Joe to be here. Are you guys glad Joe's here?
Yeah. Thank you. Wow. Yeah, that's nice. And by the same token, I am glad to be here. You know, most of you guys, besides maybe a few of the trainers and stuff, had no idea who I was before Igor introduced you to me. I mean, I know a few of you also. I was a student of Igor's for several years, but you never saw me as a trainer because, you know, I have that secret boutique business. And it's actually quite an honor to train with Igor. And you know, this is a living example of a prince right here, right? He has allowed me access to a huge number of people. You guys are the ones that actually are here, but along with the DVDs, along with the entire list that now is at least exposure to know who I am, that is a gift that I keep on giving, I'm sure. So these are the types of things that you can get with a business that runs like this on relationships, and one that you're not just spending money, you're building real friendships and relationships with people that they'll want to come and see you again and again. Igor has a kind of a famous quote that he'll say, just be a really great person that people want to hang out with, and then as soon as a lot of people start showing up, start charging them for the privilege of hanging out with you, right? That's the type of business that I wanted to create, and in my mind, it's a more stable business than one where you have to pay for lots of advertisement and everything else. And I have hypnotherapists in my area that are very, very successful, and all they do is like the King's Road, right? Mm-hmm. All they do is just advertising.
It works.
It works, and it works well, but you have to be well-funded in many cases. And I did want to do that. I wanted
and the mistakes you have to make to
opposite.
get there in the first place, that costs money.
Very, very costly. So I went the complete opposite way, and it has served me. I mean, obviously I'm here, but it has served me very, very well, and will continue to do so, because even if I stopped any advertising that I'm testing out right now and everything else, I will still have those friendships, that relationships with so many different people in so many different areas. I mean, I've met some of you guys here, and I hope and pray that some of those relationships will actually, all of those relationships actually will continue. And, this is more of an end of the seminar speech, but really, it is my privilege to be here, and it came through the relationships that I built. So that's why we designed this.
Who's going to start building relationships as soon as they get home? In fact, who's going to start them hopefully before you even get on the plane, right?
Right.
You're already starting it in here, aren't you?
You are. You guys already have.
Because let's face it, someone will call you guys and say, "Oh, do you know someone in this other area?" You go, "Actually, yes, I do." Right? So you can actually be cross-boundary, national, whatever referrers. Should we just quickly finish the map here now so we can actually get into some of the strategic bits we were talking about? I mean, has this strategic session so far been useful to you guys? Do you understand a lot of the mindsets behind this? Because you understand the processes, you understand the tools, but hopefully, as of now, as of this last session here, you're beginning to appreciate everything you've learned from a much more strategic level, a much higher level than before, right? Before it's just like get on the treadmill and walk the treadmill, and you will be in that level, and that's your day-to-day level. But it's good for you to take a step back from time to time and see the big picture, literally, and then realize, okay, here's where we're going with this. You know what? These things here are wasting my time a little bit too much. It's not doing what I needed to do, which is to build those relationships. So I'm going to just phase it out for a while. If it comes to me, great. But I'm going to put my energy in those things that are going to build the system for me, build the machine for me, right? So then the final thing is very simple. Actually, we're going to go replicate ourselves. Notice how we replicate ourselves before we start advertising. We talked about advertising earlier in the program, just because to get the pieces together for the machine. But actually, I still recommend that your shop, can we have the shop up? So we've got the phone system there with the town crier. So we've got systemized there. We've got the town crier, which is your phone script and so on. Then we have the shop coming up, which are your products, and you have a whole process for doing that. You have your classroom, which is starting off with your evening classes. And honestly, some of you guys may want to do this backwards. In other words, you may want to start just with the evening classes, the group classes, which is perfect. I know people who are, I mean, as Joe was saying, there's people out there who are making fortunes just based on that particular model there. And it's useful to get your training wheels. If you're a less experienced hypnotherapist, it requires less of you to do a group class than it does to do a one-to-one session, right? It's a great way to get that experience going. So again, the order we've designed for you is the ideal order in some respects, but you will tweak it to fit what you need. Then, of course, we have the seminars, because really it's a similar model. It's basically combining the idea of the group classes with the idea of the lecture demos and extending it over a whole day, right? This is basically free money as far as we're concerned. Now you have a fully functioning, I mean, this is pretty much describes what Joe's business is right now. He's done some of the advertising as well. But you have a fully functioning, potentially six-figure business, right? And I say potentially, and you realize why, right? It requires some intelligence, some thought, some troubleshooting to get through hurdles. The potential is right there.
And also a bit of luck.
And a bit of luck. But you know what? Luck comes around, right? You have to be available when it happens to knock on your door. If you happen to be sitting on the toilet right now because you drank too much the night before, and luck comes knocking on your door, yeah, you'll miss it. So the whole thing about this is when luck does come knocking your door, you're in a position to take advantage of it, right? So far, so good? Then we've got, of course, the final step, which is the King's Highway, and of course the advertising that comes with that. You have some lovely processes for that as well, but really, as far as I'm concerned, that's the icing on the cake, something that you may not ever even do. You might be so happy running a six-figure income business, using the other strategies, you decide, not worth my while. And then people say, why aren't you advertising? You must not be doing very well for yourself, because I never see you in the local paper. And you'll smile and go, I'm okay with what I'm doing, modest income, just $100,000, $200,000. Yeah, it could be more, but I wouldn't know what to do with it all. Yeah. Right? Does that make sense to you guys? Yes. Do you all get this? Yes. So before we have the break, we've got some time for this, I would like to very quickly run you through a simple business formula that will look at all of this in a totally different way. Is that okay with you guys? Yes. So it is identical to this, but it is a strategic view, which will look nothing like this, but you'll recognize it as the same thing, right? Would you like to have a single word that encapsulates the entire map?
Red and then blue.
Okay, sure. So the word we're looking for, the word you are looking for is locus. Not a locust. Those are the grubby little creatures that come in, destroy your crop, and then bugger off somewhere else. But locus, like a locus of control or focus. These 5 things stand for the 5 key principles in any business. If you master these 5 key principles, you will have a thriving business. If your business is failing in some area, all you need to do is tweak one of these 5 things, and your business will improve. Simple? So, L stands for leads. Without any leads, you have no business. Leads are people on your list. If they're not on your list, then they're not a lead. If they're not a lead, then you have no business.
Let's have a quick example of where you guys might get some leads. Anyone?
Friends and family,
Friends
absolutely.
and family, great one. Anyone else? Previous clients,
absolutely.
Good one.
How about a lecture demo? Hello? When they put their details on your sheet, isn't that a lead? Yes. Right? So, do you see how that relates to the map?
Yes.
Okay, any questions? No. Okay, O is your offers. If you make no offers, well, then they've got nothing to buy. You've already said, let's have a relationship, right? It's like, great, let's have a relationship. And we'll talk, we chat, right? Anyone ever have this chat where with the significant other, where they sit down and go, where's this all going? Where are we going with this? What are we? Are you going to have that kind of chat? Yeah?
Yep.
That's because no one made an offer. Right? So, in the business, of course, the offer is come to hypnotherapy, come to group coaching, come to a seminar, whatever it happens to be. You want to be making regular offers. You want to be making regular offers so that you're regularly converting them. And if things aren't working out, it may be that you have lots of leads, but your offers suck, right? I will sell you a CD for $10,000. Oh, yeah. Who wants it? Anyone? One CD, $10,000. My offer sucks a little bit right now, doesn't it? You probably... Yeah, unless there's my list on it, in which case...
I'll take that one.
Yeah.
Smart man. Smart
man. Right? But you see, what he just did is exactly the right thing. He's created an offer worth having.
He made a counter offer.
He's gone from a CD with maybe an audio, whatever, not so interesting. But suddenly, if the data there is interesting, then suddenly the offer becomes interesting, doesn't it? Right? And you will know this when you know your clients. So you understand the idea of offers? Typically, most hypnotherapists need to fix their offers because they really suck at this idea of presenting the value of what they're trying to achieve, right? Offers, here we go. C stands for conversion. This is closely related to the idea of offers, but actually feeds both here and in here. Your conversion rates are basically how do you turn a suspect, someone who doesn't know you yet, a random stranger, into a lead, right? Your conversion rates can be improved by making better offers. It can be improved by making better relationships, right? Relationships basically is the core to conversion rates, right? But also offers, if you make a good offer, well, you can convert the lead into a client, right? Make sense? U stands for the most important, one of the most important things in your business, the one thing that virtually no hypnotherapy business actually ever does. Stands for upsell. You don't actually want clients. What is a client as opposed to a lead? Client is a lead that's paid you some money, right? You're actually not that interested in clients, believe it or not. They're good to have. But what you're really interested in is good clients, repeat clients, regulars. And in order to turn a client into a regular, you have to once again convert him by selling him something more, something extra. It's an upsell. Can we have a microphone back here, please?
I was thinking about the game, and once you have the upsell process incorporated into the game, would you not be able to keep some of the people on your list as continuing on?
Yes.
Yep.
So we didn't actually get to it yesterday. There's something called a list bonus that's built into the game, so that when you get the list to a certain shape and you've got other things in place, you have services and seminars and products and so on, you automatically get a certain amount, a percentage of people paying you money for doing nothing. Because you have campaigns creating constant upsells, and that's what it's represented by it. So you literally, you could sit on the toilet the whole day long, you wake up the next day, have you sat on the toilet the whole day long? Not quite sure how that metaphor works. But you made a bunch of cash, right? One of the most exciting days of my life was actually the power of self-hypnosis for guaranteed results. I just created this. I was in Thailand with Cliff at the time. And I created it, I polished it up, we did all the product creation, editing, and manuals, all that sort of stuff with it. Then Cliff finally went to the launch, and we stayed up late until I think 2 or 3 a.m. The night before to put the launch together and put some final touches in, and I wrote some emails to help out with it and so on. So finally I go to bed, we launch, And actually, it must have been later. It must have been like 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. It's like really early. The reason I say this is because around about 9 a.m., Cliff comes knocking my door, comes barging in, and he starts saying, wake up. I was going, no, what now? Sleeping. Didn't you get enough blood from me last night? He goes, no, wake up, look at this. Whilst you've been sleeping, you made $5,000. I went, really? Thanks for waking me up. 2 hours later, he comes back in again, and then I'm still sleeping, and he goes, wake up. This time I'm going like, yes? You made another 10 grand in 2 hours. I'm going, this is good. That's the power of upsells combined with the final one. The final stands for systems. It is what it's all about. So you understand the locus formula here? These are the things you are constantly trying to improve in your business. You're going to polish your offers to make them more enticing. You're going to increase your conversion rates by either improving your offers or having a better process of capturing more leads or a better upsell process to turn leads into clients or clients into regulars, and by having systems in place to allow the relationship and the whole thing to work. You see how this is basically a description of that in, shall we say, more mechanical, mathematical sort of terms, yes? Do you understand the locus formula? Yes. Is there anything you want to add to this one?
Nope. I like it.
There's a quick hand over here, a microphone.
Not sure if I just missed it, but just before this, Joe just said we're going to talk about mentors and how to get them.
I was actually looking at my notes right now.
And I thought we missed it. Or
No, we haven't done it yet.
Haven't missed it yet.
Oh, okay, we just sidetracked.
No, yeah.
Okay.
No, we are not sidetracking. We're going through to the point where it's worth talking about mentors.
Yep.
Because right now, we've been looking at strategy, and this is basically the strategy in a simpler formula as you can get.
Got it. Okay.
Right? Now, all the mentors in the world are no good unless you're asking specific. The whole point about a mentor, and Joe will get into this, is you've got to be specific about your questions. If you go to someone and says, oh, my business is failing, help me, please help me, right?
Okay.
Which is how we feel sometimes, isn't it? It will be of zero value to you. If you say to them, my conversion rate sucks, I'm doing these things here, can you help me with that? They'll go, oh, silly man, I tried that when I was 4 years old. What you need to be doing is this. Oh, thank God for that. So that's why you need this, because otherwise you have nothing to relate to a mentor about. We're leading into
almost there. We're almost there.
Any other questions? Should we talk about some mentoring?
Oh, we've gotten to that point in the newscast where, we've done our pitch, and coming up, how to get really great mentors. All right, let's go.
And here we go. The break's over. Did you miss it?
Yeah. Hope you didn't miss it on the DVDs. All right, so here is my process for getting a mentor. Number one is very important step. Get some experience on your own. Educate yourself.
Let me just butt in here, please, folks, because this is such a big deal. You may realize we have a lot of seminars, and people are constantly coming up for advice. Do you want to know the people I love to help? And not even for a fee, just I want to help them. They're the ones who are going out there and doing this and thinking, great, they're actually doing something. Do you know how frustrating it is to spend half an hour with someone, giving them these great ideas, and you meet them again, and they've done nothing with it. And they ask, oh, it was okay, but, maybe I need some other ideas.
Yep, and we're about to get there in a second.
I apologize. This is something I come across a lot, and this is very important.
So we'll use Igor as our sounding board here. Is that all right with you? All right. So, number one, get some experience. Number two, is make some mistakes.
Yes.
Because you will not know what you need a mentor for until you're making the mistakes that the mentor can probably fix, right? So with these two first steps, we haven't even gotten to a mentor yet. Remember, I do a lot of things sort of backwards, right? These two type of things would be what most people are looking for, right? Give me the experience. Tell me about your mistakes as a mentor. You're going up there. This is the type of person that has no clue what they're doing. And oftentimes, and here's where we can ask your advice, a mentor is usually way further ahead in their business, in their life, whatever you need mentorship or coaching about, right? So they're highly successful in an area you want to be. And we've seen here on like the map, when you're highly successful, there's a lot of things going on. So they have very little amounts of time. Would you agree?
100%.
People like this, would you rather say, do you have a lot of time to give to people?
I have almost none.
Right?
But everyone wants it.
And let me ask you this question. When someone wastes your time, how do you feel?
It's not the most pleasant thing. I would rather take that time and give it to someone who's actually going to use it.
Right. So let's talk about that. The first trick that I'll use here, which is step 3, actually, that's actually going to be step 4.
Ooh,
step 3 is going to be, it is step 3. Step 3 is going to be give your potential mentor advice. Now, this completely turns the mentorship power dynamic on its head, doesn't it? Yeah. Wait, I need a mentor and I'm giving them advice? What is that all about? Remember when we had that conversation with our princes, our referral partners, and we talked about what we could possibly do together to grow our separate businesses or grow our relationship together. Well, this conversation that you can have with a mentor works in a very similar way. You will have skills that your mentor is terrible at, and they will want advice from you. They don't know it yet, but they are busy people, they are successful people, and if you can give them advice, especially, as we've said, when you have a successful business, one little nugget can mean everything.
Yep.
Do you agree?
100%.
So giving the mentor advice first puts you in a position of power with them in a way that you're helping them. And now you have the start of a relationship.
Just a quick comment on this. When he says give a mentor advice, it does not mean force feed him your opinion.
Right.
Right? You should be doing this. Why do you make a product like that? I don't like the way the website here works. You'll be much smarter when you do this sort of stuff. That's basically imposing an opinion on someone else.
Right.
As opposed to actually solving a problem or going back to your value-based thing. Like,
finding out what their problem is.
What do you need?
And finding out what they truly need. Because these people are busy. They have problems of their own. But those problems are something you might be able to solve. So figure out what's there for them to solve, and then give them advice on how to solve that. They will love you.
Yep.
The next step, then, is finally to ask for help. But I don't want you to just ask, please help me. Oh no, my business is failing. I need some relationship coaching. Please tell me how to stop smoking. I want one very specific question that you can ask them. And I can't tell you what this question will be because it will be dependent on the mentor. But the question relates to the mistakes that you're making, the areas that you're struggling, and you ask them how to solve that specific question.
And this, by the way, again, is huge. Because see, when you come up to someone and you say to them, oh, I get this a lot, for example, especially on the online sort of stuff, people email in saying, the instant induction didn't work. What should I do? What the heck am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah.
How can I possibly tell you what you should be doing?
But if we change that question around to, the instant induction didn't work with this one dyslexic pimp, and this
Right.
and this and this happened, how much more are you likely to respond?
It's a lot easier because it sucks less time out of me because I've got the specific scenario. Usually, if they describe a scenario to me, I can see exactly where they missed it. A classic example, do you mind if we talk about our conversation, Jess?
Can I get a microphone?
Yeah, do you want to get a microphone to Jess here? Just pass it over to the side. So Jess is one of our trainers. She's just building up her business, which is great. And I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, give her a round of applause. And one of the mentoring calls, she mentioned, and this is the bit I really liked as I guess I take the mentor or coaching role here, about the way the call went. You were doing it, actually, tell me a little bit about the lecture demo that you did, which you learned from.
That's a wonderful way to put it. Yeah, I had a lecture demo. It was the one that I mentioned a couple days ago where I had a ton of people signed up. 6 people actually ended up showing up.
Lift up the mic a bit.
Sorry. And I went to I was teaching instant inductions. It was just like a 3-hour course. And the induction failed miserably. And the entire lecture demo went very quickly.
Now, just notice something about what the way she described that. Has she made me responsible for solving her problem right now? Has she said, please tell me what to do, or fix it for me, or you didn't teach me right? Which is, by the way, the kind of mindset that a lot of people start projecting. It's like, you know what, I messed up, not quite sure what happened, but yeah, that's what it is. She's taking responsibility. This is a huge thing for what's happening, right? So then we had a little chat about it, and we found out, well, very quickly, because she's given me the scenario for it already, and actually the bit that she hasn't told you yet is the bit she told you last time, which I heard, and that pretty much gave me the answer, was that she'd expected 60 people, had a huge room, but 6 people turned up, and then when she got to the demo, well, it didn't work, and it didn't work for one specific reason. The group dynamics were wrong. Think about it this way. You're sitting in a cathedral with 3 other people, it's all empty, and there's someone standing in the front saying, who's going to volunteer? And you'll go, you do it, because I'm not going out there.
That's exactly what happened.
Right? So notice the enthusiasm with which Jess is responding here, rather than saying, like, fix my problem for me. She's saying, yep, that's exactly what happened. I recognize it. Now, I'm actually motivated to solve it. Number 1, I know the answer to that. It's actually really simple. And number 2, I don't feel bad about it, because as soon as I start exploring it, I know I'm not opening up a bottomless well of pleas for help.
Yep.
It's a very specific little thing. And the answer to that, if you guys are interested in, is your setup, right? Recognize the emotions of the people in the audience. It's the warming up process of the group dynamic. And then just warm them up towards the instant induction so they're willing to volunteer. When they're jumping up off the edge of their seat to volunteer, then you're done, right? But if I give that suggestion, if I give that solution, I mean, did you like the solution?
I did.
And it pretty much fits the situation, right?
Absolutely.
Now, the problem is this. If I give that solution to the average person that pleads for help and they say, oh, it didn't work, I'll say, well, let me find out a little bit more, this, and this. Oh, I get it. You didn't do your setup right. All you need to do is make sure that they're warmed up in the process. You do little activities with them, get them moving around, and when they're running around having a good time, then you hit them with instant induction before they realize what's happened, so that really it's over before they have a chance to think about it. I can guarantee you the following is going to happen. But how do I do that? I can't do that. Well, and do you see how they're projecting onto you, like, fix my problem again? And then that will have another layer, and another layer, and another layer, and another layer, and another layer. I do not have the time to spend the next 4 weeks teaching basically backwards. All I can say is, look, all right, you know what? You need to listen to this course because that's going to fix this stuff here. And then this course will fix this stuff here. And then this course will fix the stuff here. That's how me replicating myself. And then, of course, what they'll usually say is like, yeah, but just give me a simple solution now. It's like saying, how to become the president of America? Run for office, right? But how do I do that? Give me the solution right now. There's lots of things that have to happen. But because Jess is willing to contain it to the actual specific problem and take responsibility for figuring out the ways to play with the dynamics and so on, and maybe in another conversation she'll come back and say, oh, by the way, I tried that was great, or I tried fixing it, here's what I tried to do to fix it, and it worked a bit better, I feel good about that, but here's the result I got anyways, right? Now I've got something else to fix, and I'll feel good about fixing that because it's contained, it's not going to suck up my entire time, and she's actually doing something with it. It's not wasted advice. Yep. Does that make sense to you guys? I haven't wasted my time here because it's actually doing something good. It's improving someone's life, and I feel good about that.
And we're going to play to that in just 2 steps.
Thank you, Jess.
Thank you.
So just like you were saying, step 5 there is take responsibility for that. They're answering your question. It is your responsibility now to follow up, right? And actually do it, which is number 6 here.
And if you do not, you've just lost the mental.
I will put as many exclamation points and underlines as I can on there.
And just a little aside, even if it doesn't work, the fact that you're willing to try it impresses your mentor.
And he's making my points for me. Number 7.
It's because I see it. This is exactly what happens to me on a, I guess monthly basis, depending on where I happen to be at the time.
Step number 7 is report back. Igor can probably tell you, and I can definitely tell you myself, important mentors in your life are busy. Yeah. And they will forget that they gave you the advice. They will love that they gave you the advice, and they will hope that you do it. And this is definitely a critical step that you go do it. But something that will really build and cement the relationship that you have with a mentor is if you report back, good or bad, and you say, remember when you, hi, this is so-and-so, thank you for giving me the advice. Remember when you told me to do X, Y, and Z? Well, I did that, and these are the results A, B, and C. Good or bad, they do not care. They love, and you can confirm this in a second, they love that you actually took their advice and used it in your life. It is probably the most, when you experience it, you'll know, because I'm sure you will all be mentors someday. You will know the gratifying feeling that it is when someone actually took your advice and got some real great results out of it, right?
And this is, by the way, one of the reasons why Joe's standing on that stage right now.
Yep.
Because he came to the mentoring program where basically we gave him a whole bunch of training in terms of like the real subtlety bits inside of hypnosis. And, next time I saw him, was one of the conversations we had. I had actually forgotten he'd been on the mentoring program because, do a lot of stuff and a lot of stuff happening in between. And he reminded me, oh yeah, we were in Vegas, the mentoring program. Oh yeah, how did that go? He goes, it was great. I actually doubled my success rate just doing those little things you showed us how to do. And I sat there going like, this is great. It's validated my time. Because believe it or not, I don't do the mentoring program for the cash. The cash I can get easily online through products and all the rest of it. We're doing it because I want great hypnotists. I want people to go out there and do this stuff and get excited by this stuff. The fact that he did it, honestly, whether it worked or not would have been irrelevant, provided he said, I could see the potential, but I missed a little thing. As soon as he says that, I would say, you know what, let me fix that for you quickly because I think I know what's going on, right? Or even better, right now, it's actually
that brings
worked.
me to my last step. Repeat the process.
Right? And by the way, I haven't actually seen this process of his before.
It was my secret process.
It was a secret process.
I've actually only shared this with my really high-end coaching clients. I charge, I think the last time I did this, I charged $10,000 for this advice.
So
and
you just put on there 10 grand.
So yeah, the 10 grand mentoring program is what you can call it. I'm serious. I charge high-level executives a lot of money to do this because executives, just like everyone else, need mentors too. Everyone needs a mentor in some area of their life, and this is the process that I have, but I think it is the best way on how to create a relationship, get the specific advice you need, and then go and implement it and prosper from that advice in your life. Once you report back, those people will be your friend forever because no one ever does that.
Yep. Can we have a mic right over here, and then...
Okay, so first my comment was that about the thing that people take your advice. I had an experience this morning.
Great.
Okay, I want to share it with you. I was out swimming down here.
Yep.
And I came up from the water, and I met this beautiful lady over here. She looked very good in a bathing suit, by the way.
Hey, all right.
So I came over, we had a talk, and she, can I tell this? She said,
a bit late now, eh?
she said, what's your name? Janet. Janet said, well, I'm also going for in the water, but I'm not a good swimmer. And I just start saying she was, and she had all the resources to improve how to swim. She didn't need to take classes, which she wanted. Just look at these guys, how they swim, and go a little step at a time. I guess I'm picking up some of the coaching down here, and also she's probably very suggestible. That's the word for it. So I didn't expect her to take my advice because I tried it so many times here in other areas. People don't do that.
Right.
Yeah. So that's one thing I learned. It's very important to like get people in the mood to be open. So I came up here, and she came to me, and she said, "It was fantastic. I swam, and you know the feeling I got from that, it was like a lot of gratitude."
That's it right there.
Yeah,
that
was really
It's
nice.
right there.
Yep.
And that's why I think this is a killer process. I've not seen it before, but everything Joe was saying is like, yep, been there, yep, that's it. It's exactly right.
We are not usually familiar with people taking events and coming back, and if you're like open for the gratitude, it's a great reward, and
For sure.
and that's also what coaching is about. Is the
Absolutely.
Right.
The other thing I have was a question. So I was like thinking about getting a mentor, a coach, and I have to ask some people where do they recommend a very good coach or mentor that's like further ahead of me and my business plans and have some experience. But when you find out actually that this person cannot help you, what would you do? Because he's probably not that competent anyway. Or
I mean, I don't know about you. As far as I'm concerned, they may still be an interesting person, so you can still build a relationship. And you never know where it could lead. I mean, people I've spoken to just casually and hope they could help with something, doesn't really work out. They're still decent people, so we still hang out. And then just randomly, without even realizing, something else they may have as strength in, might be a year or two before I figure out what that is, and it's useful. Or it never becomes useful. It doesn't matter. It's still an interesting friendship.
In this model, what I would use, if that person's not available, right here, number 4, instead of asking for a specific question, ask for a specific person that they could refer you to that they like.
Very nice.
That's it. And then if your mentor's not available, the one you like, ask them who they would recommend. And then go through the same process. And I just want to make a subtle point because I think it was really great. Notice that she didn't give you some advice, wherever that was. Right here, number 3. It doesn't always have to work this way. I found that this is a really nice way to get their attention and change the dynamic there and open things up. But step 3 isn't always required because, you just basically walked up and she said, hey, I have some experience in life. I really am not sure I know how to swim. She didn't really give you any advice, maybe she said,
but at the same
tie your
time,
shoe.
Just
right?
to get a contrast there, they're giving advice is adding value. What she didn't do is suck value out of you by saying, please save my life.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of taking value away from me. It's kind of more neutral. Or being grateful, someone just like very grateful about something, that's still adding value in a different way.
So you can skip a few of these questions, but then she took responsibility for actually getting in the water. She did it. And then the reporting back was you could actually see her, but it's the same process, right? Pretty easy. Like you guys are probably used to this process failing because most of the time people don't report back or they don't take your advice. That they're in the position here where they haven't gotten enough experience and made enough mistakes to be able to ask you intelligent questions as a potential mentor, and you know the answer, and you're like, you see someone in a problem, and you're like, I know exactly what could fix that, right? They're not in the right mindset to be able to take that advice on.
Right.
So these steps for you as the person with a problem get you into the right mindset so that you're able to intelligently ask questions and actually receive the advice that you're getting from the mentors. There's a lot built into this process. I would recommend you do not skip the steps, but play with it. It's up to you. Test it.
Just a quick question.
About the lecture demo, it's kind of fortunate it was only with 6 people.
For sure.
The mistake occurred with.
Totally.
And the first time I did a demo for fitness, the class was for free and nobody showed up.
Right.
Like not one person. So I just went through the demo as though I was doing it.
Good for you.
And people dropped by and asked me if they thought I was a little foolish, because I'm calling out to no one. But just to practice for myself, that's how I looked at it. I was just going to practice.
Use Igor's trick and put a teddy bear there.
Yeah.
And then
yeah,
people.
well, it would have taken a few 10 minutes. But so I went through the class, and people dropped by because they heard the music, they heard me calling it out,
Yeah.
and I greeted them all.
Action gets reactions.
Yeah, and I told them, and some of them felt sorry for me, and I said, "Don't, it's practice, I'm just doing it." And the next week, 4 people showed up. The week after, I had 8 people, and it just kept going from there. So not giving up, even though you don't get the turnout that you want.
Exactly.
It's just a learning experience.
Yep. Really great. We have like.
Okay, guys, we're actually a little overdue on the lunch breaks. So why don't we do the following? Let's have a lunch now. You have all the strategic stuff we're talking about. When we come back with fresh minds and full bellies, we'll go for the Q&A sessions, and we'll go towards the tail end of the day. Okay, guys?